You are listening to the International Radio Report. Your reactions are much appreciated. Feel free to send them to radioreport@yahoo.com. That is radioreport@yahoo.com. Thank you.
Welcome, everybody, to the International Radio Report on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal. It is Sunday, October the 22nd. We are here every week at this time with 30 minutes of news and information from the world of radio. My name is Sheldon. Gilles is with me, and we thank you for tuning in. Several ways for you to listen to us or to contact us if you want to reach us with any questions or comments. Our email address is radioreport@yahoo.com. The show is live streamed and archived at ckut.ca, the website of CKUT Radio in Montreal. Our Facebook group, International Radio Report, you can join the group. We have 944 members. Our YouTube channel gives you the opportunity to listen to the show when it's convenient for you, and you can go back and listen to older shows as well on the channel. So it is at IRR on YouTube for the International Radio Report. You can subscribe there as well. We have 886 subscribers at the moment. And our X account continues to hold steady at IRRCKUT, just 28 followers at this point in time. The Facebook group, though, and the YouTube channel, the X account, are good places to get the links that we can't post on Facebook, actually. So you'll get some of them on Facebook, but with the Canadian regulations, we can't put all of the news links in particular. So we recommend you go check out the YouTube or the X account to see those links for the stories that we talk about on the show. So that business aside, we'll get right down to the business of this week's news. And we have some upcoming events to talk about in a little more detail. It's a bit of a quiet week otherwise, not a lot of major stories going on, but we do have a couple. The first one is dealing with pirate radio in the United States, a continuing battle between the FCC and the pirate radio operators. This story comes from Radio Inc., and the headline is FCC confirms maximum $2.3 million fine for 2 New York City pirates. The FCC has affirmed 2 forfeiture orders against individuals operating illegal FM radio stations. The orders, the first to be issued under the Preventing Illegal Radio Abuse Through Enforcement Act, also known as the Pirate Act, comes with record fines for a couple of Queens, New York residents. Cesar Arroyo and Luis Angel Arroyo have been slapped with the maximum penalty allowed under the Act, $2,316,034. Not sure how they come up with that precise amount, but despite previous FCC fines, orders, and having their equipment seized by U.S. Marshals in 2016, the Arroyos have been operating an unauthorized radio station, Radio Impacto 2, for more than a decade. In the second case, Thomas Barnes has been fined $80,000 for operating an unlicensed radio station on the grounds of a church in La Grande, Oregon. The station ceased operations in April 22 after the church was warned about potential landlord liability under the Pirate Act. Both parties failed to respond to the notices of apparent liability issued in March this year. The pirate hunt is only ramping up, according to FCC Chairwoman Jessica Rosenworcel. During her first budget presentation to the Financial Services and General Government Subcommittee, she stated the intention of using $5 million of the $20.7 million increase to find and punish unlicensed operators and hold landlords accountable. We've talked about that before. If they can't, they're not only going to go after the pirate broadcasters themselves, but they may also try to fine any landlord who knows or has a pirate radio station, has one of his tenants, for example, running an illegal radio station out of their premises. So they continue to try to put the squeeze on these stations. Again, we're mostly talking about FM pirates, not shortwave radio pirates, which are a sort of a different class. These are stations that operate in big cities. They use FM frequencies, quite often possibly interfering with licensed radio stations as well. They generally revolve around special interest groups, either ethnic communities, religious related. Some of them, I guess, knowing they're doing something illegally, maybe others who don't realize that it's illegal. They may find out with dire circumstances connected to it in the way of these multi-million-dollar fines.
I find it surprising that, even with fines and being warned, that sometimes some of them even continue after that. And it's like, or you get their equipment seized and they just start over again a couple of weeks later.
Some of them just lay low for a little while and then, okay, the heat's off, let's fire it up again. I think it's going to be a cat and mouse game for a long time for the FCC.
Yeah. Hey, one warning would be enough for me.
Yeah. I don't think I would even start it, to be honest. Knowing what we know about this operation, other people who don't know that, hey, this is illegal or whatever, just think they're doing some kind of service, like, hey, I can start a radio station.
Yeah. Especially on FM, which is extremely easy to pinpoint where you are.
Yeah, and not so expensive to operate.
Oh, no, absolutely.
You need a little short antenna on the top of your building or something, a small transmitter that can fit, on a rack somewhere, and away you go. And a couple microphones, and you're all set to go.
So we've got some changes coming up next week, and we're a little early on the news of time change, but we are going to mix it in because it has an impact anyways on the B23 schedules. We're going next Sunday to have the new shortwave schedules. Shortwave schedules change twice a year, and the schedules are called A and B. So B schedules are going to mean all of the stations that you're listening to. You might suddenly find that at that time and that frequency, nothing's on or something different's on. And that's because they'll be changing due to the seasonal changes in propagation. They have to change their frequencies most of the time for propagation purposes. Although with high solar activity, I've been very amazed at some of the frequencies that are still rock solid, like Spain on 16 meters at 22 UTC to North America. What's going to happen also is that you're going to have a hard time finding those new frequencies unless you go maybe on the broadcaster's website. And a lot of broadcasters don't update them very well lately. So, all the schedule websites that we go through, these will take a certain amount of time to be updated with new schedules. There's one place that's a little complex to understand, but that has what is probably the closest to what the schedules are going to be about. It's HFCC.org, because the broadcasters tend to send their schedules so that they are compared and making sure that there's no clash between different broadcasters using same frequencies and times. So that is going to be starting next week on Sunday. A week after that, we'll have the time change, and that time change, it's always important. We say it here on the show most of the time that you got to remember that it changes the ratio or the perspective of UTC versus local time. It's always that problem. So, and to mix it up a little more, some of these stations, because in Europe, for example, the time changes in a different time. It's not at the same time as North America. And some stations, for example, Radio Romania, change their time of broadcast on shortwave due to their local time change, just to make it a little more complicated to try to find your favorite stations. So all of that is coming up in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, if you're listening to some of your favorite stations this week, they may actually tell you, next week you're going to find us here at this time on this frequency sort of thing. So if there are stations you listen to regularly, chances are you'll hear it there first.
Yep.
Because if they don't tell their listeners, then you're not going to know where they are. So, it's a complicated time. Shortwave is complicated for a lot of people, especially starting out. This makes it even more complicated when things start. You just think you've got things figured out, and all of a sudden they start changing things around for a different time of the year. So be prepared for it and be patient. The news and information will eventually come out, so you may miss a week or two of what you want to listen to, unless you just tune around and find the stations. If you got a nice SDR with a display, just watch for the signals popping up at different times and go check out and see what's there.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll find them before you find them on a website or what have you. So it's going to take some time, and then throw the time change in, especially here a week later, and everything's going to get kind of messed up. It used to. I don't know if they seem to have fixed it at CKUT over the past couple of years, but every time the time changed, everything in the studio used to be all out of whack, and the archive recordings used to be messed up and whatever. So let's hope when that time comes, we'll tell you of where we're supposed to be and where you should find us on the CKUT archives, but we'll just hold our breath and wait and see what happens.
Yep, definitely. And if you log stations, don't forget, if you start looking at, what's on this frequency at this time, it might not be the correct. So
don't assume anything. Make sure you get that ID to know for sure that that's what you're listening to. Something that's not as confusing that's coming up this coming weekend, and it's a lot of fun. It's really exciting. There's lots of activity, and that is the annual CQ Worldwide Ham Band Contest. This is when ham radio practically goes crazy for 48 hours. Stations from literally all over the world trying to contact as many other stations from places all over the world. Many stations popping up in strange locations. Ham operators from some country gather all their equipment together and spend a bunch of money and head off to some little island in the Caribbean or somewhere off in the Pacific. We've already heard stations on the air in very strange places where we don't normally hear a lot of ham radio activity. So they will be on the air for 48 hours for this annual SSB contest. This is a contest in voice. There's no FT8s and no CW. This is you listening to the ham bands and hearing ham radio operators in different countries contacting with each other for points, to accumulate points. It's a contest. The most points you can accumulate. There's no big prizes like cars and trips and stuff like that. It's just bragging rights, and there's certificates that are issued, for top stations. There's all kinds of different categories that you can participate in. If you're a ham, you probably know a lot about it. We'll tell you in a little bit how you can find out more about it. But if you're a shortwave listener, it's easy. All you've got to do is tune the bands. And what we've decided to do in our Canadian International DX Club is revive a club ham band contest, a version of it that listeners participate in. Hams can participate in our club as well, but if you're not a ham or you just want to do it listening, which is a lot easier than trying to make contact, you just follow the instructions that are in our bulletin. We hope a number of our members will be doing that. We haven't done this since, I think, back at the end of the 1990s, so this is something brand new. And we have new tools now. We have SDRs. We have spotting sites to look for stations that are on the air. So we might be able to accumulate a lot of contests. Very simply, it's the total number of stations that you're able to log. Let's say you hear a station from Spain, but you can log him on each of the different bands. You can only log it once per band. But let's say there's 6 bands. You could log the same station on 6 bands. But if he's from Spain, that gives you 1 multiplier. So if you heard him on 6 bands from one country, 6 times 1, you got 6 points. So at the end of the 48 hours, the total number of stations that you logged on all the different bands times the number of countries that you actually heard. And that gives you your total points for the event. We do not log as listeners in our contest. In the worldwide contest, you do log all countries, including the United States and Canada. In our CIDX contest, we don't count the American stations. We don't count the Canadian stations. except for Alaska and Hawaii in the States. We do count those two. But so that you can eliminate, logging the Americans, because there's going to be thousands of them on the air. But if you've never listened to the ham bands during this contest, be prepared. It's fast, it's furious, it's jam-packed with signals. We just hope the conditions are good for the weekend. So we'll give you the dates and times of that at the end of the show. In our normal section of upcoming events. There is only one event. Nobody competes with this worldwide event for that weekend. So be prepared. If you've never participated before or never even listened to the ham bands during this, you're going to have an experience.
Even if it's just listening, what's the fun part of this is hearing so many countries and so many islands and places that are rarely on the air. And, we talk about how sometimes people say, I miss DXing, so many European countries or so on. Well, you'll get all of them there because there'll be hams on almost any country and continent, basically. One of the things that is very nice to know is, you get ham calls. And when you're not used to the prefixes and all of that, how do I know where is this station? Well, you can go on websites like QRZ.com. Another one is QRZCQ.com. You just enter the calls, and you will immediately know where they're located. Sometimes you have nice pages with beautiful pictures of where they are and of ham stations, and it's really a lot of fun. I probably, as a listener for so many years, made it probably on every SSB contest, CQSSB, because I just found it so much fun to just tune around and hear all of these exotic countries on the bands.
And you can, one easy tip to catch a lot of overseas or foreign stations is to land on a strong American station or even a Canadian station, because Canadian stations are a little bit more rare than American stations. And you might get a Canadian or American on a frequency, and they'll be running a list just continuous of all these different countries trying to contact them to get their point. Yep. So if you land on one and you hear that he's really busy, but it takes you a little while to get used to the speed of it. It's all going very quickly. The contacts are very short, and they're exchanging information. They don't say their country, but they use what's called a CQ zone. So you can look up a list of those two that are available. We'll put a link to where you can find those lists because some of the prefixes are a little odd. They don't use the standard ones for some countries. There's some secondary ones that are put into use. What they're trying to do is really make their station stand out in a crowd.
Oh, yeah.
They might use a special call. They might be in a special remote location somewhere around the planet. It's a lot of fun. So do check it out.
And one of the things that we'll have to be checking out when there's such a contest is the space weather. We have to know what's happening with our sun. Conditions are right now amazing. Let's hope that they stay like that for the contest, because it's going to be probably one of the best contests ever for a lot of hams and a lot of listeners. This week, we pretty much had quiet moments most of the week. Sunspot activity is lower a little bit, but we're still in high solar activity. Higher frequencies are propagating really well, and this is making amazing propagation. There's nothing special to look at much this week. The sunspots on the sun are actually pretty stable, so we're expecting conditions to stay pretty stable also. And with the higher solar activity, there should be a lot of activity again this week. One of the things that we haven't mentioned also, for those that are not contesters, but are ham operators, during the week or two before the SSB contest, a lot of these exotic stations are already on the air, but just making standard contacts with ham radio operators. I actually am looking at that a lot and chasing a few stations, one from Tuvalu. And so there's quite a lot of things to check out just for, non-contesters, like I'm not participating in the contest. Solar activity hopefully will continue to be amazing for the contest. Let's hope so. The sunspot number is 54 and the solar flux 135 as we're recording. And, well, if you want to hear all these exotic stations and know if conditions are good, got to turn on a radio and listen.
Hi, I'm Mickey Delmage of Sherwood Park, Alberta. Hear the latest information from the world of radio, locally and internationally, each week on the International Radio Report on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal and online at ckut.ca.
And one of the things that we'll be gearing up, and we're talking about it a little early because a lot of the stations are going to be there a little early, and it's Halloween Pirates. It's one of the best times of the year. There's Christmas is there also up there, but Halloween has a special pirate time because you'll have special programming and howling sounds and wolves, and this is always fun to listen to the programs that come out. And usually they'll come out before, so even starting like late this week into the weekend, expect a lot of special programming. Some pirates actually come out only once a year for Halloween. You don't hear them at any other time. So it's one of those great periods. Where do you get pirates? Where do you listen? Well, most of the pirates, the activity is could be 24 hours. We never know. But usually late afternoon, evening is when they come out most. I guess some of them out there might have jobs in the daytime. I don't know.
Could be.
So any frequency between about 6,850 to 7,000 kilohertz. Some in AM, most in sideband. But also a lot of them been popping up lately, especially later at night. At the bottom, always check the bottom 200 kilohertz of 4,000 kilohertz, for example, 4,000 to 4,200. There's been a lot of pirates lately in 4060 kilohertz, 4080 kilohertz. Same with 5,000 kilohertz. There's been a lot of pirates around 5100, 5120, 5140. So tune the first 200 kilohertz of each megahertz if you want, 4,000, 4,200, 5,000, 5,200. And the standard band, which is the most popular place most pirates go to, 6,850 to 7,000 kilohertz.
There are some of these stations that you mentioned that only come out for Halloween. There were some famous ones over the years. One simply called Radio Halloween always seems to surface. There was a station, I don't think they've been on the air for a number of Halloweens now, but it used to be called The Beast. So it's a fun time, some really interesting QSL cards, mostly EQSL cards. You can post a report. There's a place to go look for pirate activity. We've talked about it in the past, called HF Underground is the website. Go to that website and people post in real time the stations that they're hearing, the frequencies, some of the details. And often the pirates are monitoring that website and they see your report. And if they have your email, before you know it, you open up the inbox and there's a EQSL waiting for you. Or you can just send them a report and they respond to them right away. You might even get your name mentioned on one of these pirate broadcasts. And no, they won't be coming to chase you down and charge you $2 million for listening to a pirate. You can do that without worrying. There is something coming up, though, this week that you can definitely try for, if probably best if you're over in Europe. It's going to be tough into North America because of the timing of it. Something we've talked about many times when they do special broadcasts, and that is the transmissions from SAQ in Sweden. SAQ is scheduled to be on the air on United Nations Day, which is coming up on October the 24th. We thank Ralf Bender, who posted this in the CIDX IO group. After an extended period of building maintenance, the World Heritage Grimeton Radio Station has scheduled the station SAQ to be on the air on UN Day, Tuesday, October the 24th, from 1700 Central European time. So let's forget that and go with UTC time, 1500 hours, running, sending out a peace message to the whole world. And trust me, that's something that we really need right now with all the things that are going on. Yep. They will be using the historic 200 kilowatt Alexanderson Alternator transmitter, which was built in 1924 and is still functional. The frequency, though, way, way down there in the spectrum, 17.2 kilohertz, and the transmissions are in CW. Transmission itself will take place at 1500 UTC, but they'll be getting ready. They are doing some test transmissions running from Monday the 23rd between 1100 and 14 hours UTC. During that time, SAQ will be on the air for shorter periods of time, and they'll carry out tests and measurements to make sure that everything is working properly. But then on the 24th, they will have a live stream on their YouTube channel starting at 1425. They'll fire up and tune the transmitter at 1430 UTC, and then at 1500, the transmission, the peace message will go out from the in CW from the radio station in Sweden. They will be issuing QSLs. They're accepting reports. They're most welcome and appreciated. For a guaranteed EQSL, they have an online form on their website that they want you to fill in. They cannot guarantee that reports sent to them directly by email or by regular mail or to the QSL Bureau will be confirmed. So you're best to go on the website and use the online form if you're able to hear them, for one thing, and secondly, if you want to get a QSL from them. They're going to be running an amateur radio station in conjunction with the transmissions. It's a Sierra Kilo 6, Sierra Alpha Quebec, and that will be operating in CW and SSB. CW on 3535, 7035, and 14035, and SSB on 3755 and 7140 kilohertz. And there's an email address for that, which we'll post. And they say both of those stations will be on the air most of the time during the test periods and what have you. So if you're somewhere in a very quiet location, North America, I don't think we'll have much of a chance. Maybe if you're on the coast, but even then it's kind of early for us in North America. But certainly over in Europe, people should be able to hear it.
So we have one upcoming ham radio contest this week, which is the one that we talked about, the 2023 CQ Worldwide DX contest. And that's going on, of course, in SSB from October 28 to 29 to 0 hours UTC Saturday, October 28, which will be Friday night in North America. And it's 23:59 UTC on Sunday, October the 29th. The objective for amateurs around the world to contact as many other amateurs in as many CQ zones and countries as possible. The bands, 6 bands only, 1.8, 3.5, 7, 14, 21, and 28 megahertz. Observance of established band plans is strongly encouraged. Contest exchange, SSB, is the signal report plus CQ zone number of the station location.
And get familiar with those CQ zone numbers because they'll rattle those off pretty quickly. Yeah. Everybody will be 5.9, but then you'll hear the 05, the 12, the 31, whatever. So if you have a list available of all those CQ zones, because often they won't say what country they're in. They'll just use those codes. This is rapid fire. They're not wasting any chit-chat time.
Oh, no. This is, we make contacts, and we make it as fast as we can.
Put in as little or as much time as you want. You've got 48 hours to do it.
Definitely.
So pick your times, check the bands, different times on different bands. I heard a New Zealand station a couple nights ago on 20 meters at 0400 UTC.
Yep.
You got to go check these places. The Mozambique station's been very active. I'm sure that one's going to be a popular one during the contest. The island of Mayotte in the Indian Ocean has been active. Yep. So give it a shot. Should be a lot of fun. Let us know how you make out with it.
So we're out of time.
Busy show today. Lots of information for you. We'll get some notes up on Facebook and on the YouTube channel for you so you can check them out. And you'll have to go dig around a little bit for some of the information we talked about for the contests and what have you. And have fun with it. It's all about fun and all about tuning around on the radio And get ready for Pirate Weekend leading up to Halloween, because that's always a lot of fun as well. Some pretty fun stuff to listen to. Have a great week, everybody. We'll talk to you again next Sunday on the International Radio Report on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal. Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.